Welcome. Good morning. My name is Marlene Paglia. I represent the League of Women Voters of Berkeley Heights, New Providence, and Summit. I am a resident of Berkeley Heights, and therefore I can moderate since I cannot vote for any of these candidates. The League of Women Voters is proud to be a nonpartisan group. We neither support nor oppose candidates or political parties at any level of government. We always work on vital issues of concern to members of the public. The League of Women Voters encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Our tagline is empowering voters and defending democracy. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League of Women Voters. And year in and year out, the League is committed to providing fact-based information about issues and the position candidates take on those issues to help voters make their own decisions and participate in the electoral process. As a courtesy to the candidates, please turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices. This is a forum devoted to hearing the views only of the candidates running for Summit Common Council. To ensure that this meeting is as informative as possible, we ask that you, the audience, abide by the following. That the questions that you are writing on the cards provided are concerned with issues, not personalities. That we can move along in the time allotted and hear equally from each candidate. We ask that you hold your applause until the end of the forum. Today's forum has 4 parts to it. We'll be hearing from candidates, and to my immediate right, we have Greg Martin, who's running for Common Council, Ward 2. Next to him is David Nadeau, who is running for Common Council, Ward 1. To his right, we have Louis DeSocio, who's running for Common Council, Ward 2, and to the far right is John Dougherty, who is running for Common Council, Ward 1. The first part of the program are opening statements. The opening statements are 2 minutes in duration. There are 2 timekeepers sitting in the front, so you'll see cards coming up. When there's 30 seconds to go, a yellow card will come up. That will tell the candidates they have 30 more seconds. And then at the end of the allotted time, they'll have a red card, and that means please complete your thought, and then we move on. We drew to see who was going to go in what order, and Mr. Dougherty, you drew first, so you have the first 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is John Dougherty, and I am running as a Ward 1 candidate for Summit Common Council this fall. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to participate in this morning's forum. I know Summit. I was born and raised here in East Summit. I also am the only former city employee to run for office here in town. I have been a public servant myself most of my adult life, serving as a police officer in Summit for 28 years. I know the meaning of service before self and cherish the opportunity to again make a difference in the lives of others. I retired as captain 5 years ago, held command positions in the Detective Bureau, Juvenile Bureau, Traffic Bureau, and the Records Division. I am also a committed Summit volunteer. Over the years, I have served on over 25 boards, volunteer organizations, and non-for-profit groups. Most recently, I have been a member of the city's planning board for 3 years, and I'm acutely aware of the major issues that are addressed in the master plan. One of the most important concerns to the residents of Summit is traffic and pedestrian safety. As the former Traffic Bureau commander, I will again offer my training and experience to work with the police department to strategize targeted enforcement programs and the use of innovative traffic calming devices to reduce speeding, distracted driving, and the disregard of traffic control devices. Another important concern here in Summit is the taxes. There are over 500 separate municipalities in New Jersey. Each duplicates the same separate local municipal departments. This is an unsustainable model of government. There has to be opportunities to share some services like other towns. This was successfully accomplished with our recently created shared dispatch center in the municipal court. I look forward to identify these opportunities and reduce the burden on the taxpayers. My wife and I have lived in Summit our entire lives and have raised our 4 sons here. We love Summit and have a vested interest in keeping our city strong. It is this experience and knowledge that will be invaluable as a member of Common Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeSocio.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Good morning. I'm sorry about the weather. We have no control over that. My name is Lou DeSocio. I'm running for Common Council in Ward 2. I am a 37-year Summit resident and homeowner. I work in downtown Summit for the past 18 years. I have led many things in downtown Summit. I know some of the problems. I serve on the Union County Transportation Advisory Board as a service to Summit. I was instrumental many years ago with Bob Sheehan and other tirelessly volunteers to help clean up Bryant Park. Bryant Park was really in bad shape, so we took that on as a project. I am a member of the Summit Elks. I am the Veterans Chairman, and being proud of that. I'm also the Drug Awareness Chairman, trying to bring the youth of America and Summit to the ills of drugs. Summit has a major drug problem. We try to do everything we can. The Elks also serve hot dogs and cold drinks at Memorial Day, after the Memorial Day service, to honor our vets. My goal is to revitalize downtown Summit, help our seniors stay here. A lot of our seniors, after a certain year, they have to leave. They can't afford to stay in Summit. I support the Highline Park, and it may bring beauty and joy to the city of Summit. Please vote for me, Lou DeSocio, Common Council, Ward 2, Tuesday, November the 6th, 2018. I promise to give it everything I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I just want to advise the candidates that you need to speak louder as we progress on. Hopefully the sound person is here and will come in with microphones, but we need to project some more. Mr. Naidu.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm David Naidu. I have the honor and privilege of serving as your representative on council and to serve this year as council president. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, those of you who are attending, and those of you who are watching on television. And I want to thank my family for their understanding and allowing me to do this. It is appropriate for me to focus on my family, for that is the reason that I decided to seek re-election. 3 years ago, when I first ran, I told an audience very similar to this, that we were at a crossroads, that we needed to either decide to be proactive or to fall into passivity. 3 years later, I know from this community that they have chosen the path of being proactive. I am sure we will talk about the multiple different ways that we have achieved progress, but let me lay out a few for you right now. We have made progress on fiscal responsibility by controlling taxes and reducing borrowing. We had a 0% increase in the municipal tax rate this year. We had a 22% reduction in the capital budget over last year. We killed a project for $300,000 in fake cobblestones in the downtown. We had a merger of the new Providence and Summit courthouses that will save us in the long term hundreds of thousands of dollars. We made progress on economic development. We changed the downtown zoning to allow for entertainment uses. We were moving forward with the Broad Street redevelopment, and we created an economic development committee. We have made progress on cutting red tape. We have started the reevaluation of the downtown development regulations, and we have made progress on pedestrian safety, installing speed humps, four-way stop signs, and crosswalk signals. We have made progress on transparency. We started Council on the Road, listening sessions, and we have made progress on multiple fronts dealing with safety, economic development, and progress that we will see in years to come. We will have a long and thorough discussion, I hope, on the steps that we have taken in these past 3 years to make sure we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ferdinand.
Good morning. For decades, there has been a tradition of issue-focused, respectful, and dignified campaigning here in Summit. That era of civility ended this week. These flyers arrived in the mailboxes of several of our neighbors. There are 3 things about these mailers that should concern every single voter. First, they contain flat-out lies. Second, they aim to divide and mislead people. And third, they reveal that Summit is no longer immune to this repugnant style of campaigning. I'll address the lies first. Both of these ads claim that because I am a renter, I do not pay property taxes. I, like more than 5,800 other residents throughout Summit, who also rent their home, pay rent, and the owner in turn pays property taxes. It is not acceptable to disparage any group of people in this way. These mailers create an image of a struggling downtown with growing regulation that harms business. This couldn't be further from the truth. Occupancy rates in the downtown have been on the rise since 2015, and we're currently at 96%. Additionally, we have an economic development committee. Development regulation ordinance revision is underway, and there has been a recent change in first floor zoning. All these changes aim to make it easier to do business in Summit. My friends, I was raised in Summit to value honesty, respect, hard work, and responsibility. Those are the values I believe define our Summit character, and the values I have placed front and center as I have sought this office. I've knocked on more than 3,000 doors since March. Lou, if you connected with the people of Summit in the way that I have, you would know that they deserve much better than this. They deserve a leader who understands the value of facts, seeks to bring people together, and leads with their values. Clearly, that is me. Let's put all this to the side, because I'm really excited to have an issue-focused, positive discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to take a 1-minute break because the microphones are here. The next portion of this morning's program are the prepared questions. Members of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party met and came up with 4 questions that the candidates saw in advance and had a chance to prepare. For this segment, each candidate will have a 1.5-minute response, which means at the end of the minute, they'll see a yellow card, and then at the end of the 1.5 minutes, the red card to complete their thought. Okay? The first question, and Mr. Naidu is going to answer this one first. And the question reads, this year's Republican campaign literature reads, vote to bring back Summit's tradition of excellence. How do you define Summit's tradition of excellence? Do you think we have strayed from it? Mr. Naidu.
Thank you. I hope everyone can hear me now without my, do I need to bring this closer?
Yes.
Okay, all right, sorry, it's somewhat awkward, but okay. Frankly, I'm very confused as to what the literature means. I don't understand why our opponents want to go backwards. As I said in my opening statement, we had a 0% increase in the municipal tax rate, something that hasn't happened in many years. We had a 22% reduction in the capital budget. I presume they don't think those are bad things. Again, as I said in my opening statement, we changed the downtown zoning to allow for entertainment uses. We actually put the online permitting system on so that people can track their permits online. We put in speed humps and four-way stop signs to reduce traffic incidents and increase pedestrian safety. I presume they don't oppose those changes. In fact, these changes were approved by the current Republican and Democratic council members unanimously. Finally, we got Hometown Heroes done, banners honoring our veterans. This was a project that came to council on January 16th. We got it done this year, something that was again done in a bipartisan manner. So again, I would ask my opponents there, why do they want to go backwards? Why can't they go forwards?
Thank you. Please pass the mic down. It's Mr. Doherty's turn.
As I stated before, I am a lifelong resident of Summit. My earliest memories of Summit and its tradition of excellence will reflect in the idea that Summit was your home, from the womb to the tomb. We have strayed from this as many find they cannot afford to stay past retirement. If you were not lucky to have been born here like I was, you were attracted to our town by our great schools, safe streets in the vicinity of New York City. Residents now stay until their last child graduates from the high school. The same week they put up the sign that says, "My child is a proud graduate of Summit High School," the realtor sign goes up the following week. We need to reduce our tax rate. We need to push for a truly fair school funding formula. We need to reduce Union County government. If we could get a handle on just these two items, we could make it possible for more lifelong Summit residents to afford to retire and remain part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, pass it all the way down here. It's now Mr. Martin.
So we'll speak up a little. Okay. I wonder what specifically it is that Lou and John believe our city has lost. From my perspective, Summit is greater than it has ever been. I define Summit's tradition of excellence as the combination of the following: our rich history, from being a beacon during the Revolutionary War to being the home of a place of worship that's 95 years old and founded by a young African-American woman. We continue to blaze a trail and serve as an inspiration and an envy to other municipalities. An incredible culture of volunteerism. I see that every Sunday night as a volunteer EMT responding to emergencies. And our wonderful diversity that brings together people of vastly different backgrounds in a truly American hometown. We have challenges like any community, but I believe without a shadow of a doubt that Summit's best days lie ahead. And that with the right leadership, we will continue to work together to keep Summit a truly wonderful destination to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you. And now please pass it over. It's now Mr. DeSocio's turn.
Thank you. One of the things I want to touch on, Summit has a triple bond rating. I'd like to maintain that. There's only about 4 or 5 towns in the state of New Jersey that has that. Finances and taxes were cut under the leadership of the Republicans in 2014. I'd like to see that be done again. Bringing the boards under development and bringing all-day kindergarten, mindful of what it's going to do to our tax base. Raising questions on the value of the advisory board, economic advisory board. We don't know what that's going to do. The role of downtown chamber and municipal government that was elected, creating a place where business can succeed and get out of their way as far as bureaucracy. Also, the park line is an example where we can turn a blight of Summit into a blemish, make it beautiful, make it. Summit has really, that particular part is terrible. I'd like to also remind that this will have no taxpayer base. No taxpayer money will be using this for the park line. I support this. I think this is a great idea. Many years being on the Transportation Advisory Board, Trails for Rails came to pitch that to all Union County. I'm glad Summit is taking the lead on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mic set up. Put them in the middle. Candidates. Okay. Question number 2. And Mr. Doherty, you get to answer this one first. And the question asks, will you seek to shrink, grow, or hold steady the size of municipal government as a member of Summit's Common Council?
Thank you. As a member of Summit Common Council, I will work to shrink the size of municipal government. In just the last year, we have seen several unnecessary layers of government added. These layers have not shown any positive effect. Efficiency is hampered by these unneeded new entities and slows down the process. Do we need a transfer station task force? What authority do they have? Isn't that covered under the General Services Committee, which is made up of actual elected officials? Do we need an economic redevelopment committee? As a former member of the planning board, I recall redevelopment was reviewed and voted on by committees, by this committee and by the zoning board. We also have the Summit Downtown Incorporated and the Chamber of Commerce. They are made up of members of our business community. The Summit Central Retail Business District is currently at 96% occupancy rate, and unemployment nationally is at 3.7%. Where is the need for these recently added layers of government? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeSocio.
Thank you. For the last 18 years, I've worked in downtown Summit. I have worked with people that come into my store. I work at Hartwell Brothers. This particular, I have a unique tone of what goes on in downtown Summit. There is a lot of bureaucracy. We're trying to shrink government and make things smoother and streamlined.
Please speak into the mic.
I don't think this bothers.
Yeah, it is.
Testing. You got it now.
Speak closer into the mic.
Thank you.
Can you fix this? It's not holding it, bro.
I actually have nothing to do with it. I was just I'm believe. If you were doing better, would you help?
Hold the mic.
Yeah, I think so. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, then we have Mr. Naidu.
Oh, thank you very much. Let me just begin before I read my prepared remarks to just clarify something that John said. I don't want his misunderstanding of the facts to cloud the truth. First of all, the Transfer Station Task Force and the Economic Development Committees are not layers of government. There are organizations and boards and commissions, just like there are multiple ones, things that John in fact referred to as his service to this community. So unless he thinks that volunteers in this community are members of a bureaucracy, I think he's mistaken. Secondly, in 2015, when I first ran for council, there were 208 full-time and part-time employees in the city of Summit. Today, as we sit here today, in 2018, there are 199. So we've had a reduction, in fact, in the last 3 years. Those of you who have followed what I've been doing on council know that I was one of the few people to oppose spending $200,000 on kiosks in the downtown, because I believe that if we're making investments in technology, we should have savings in personnel. Secondly, as I referred to, we've had the merger of the Summit and New Providence courts, which will reduce for Summit taxpayer savings of $100,000 going forward in 2020 onwards. I have a track record of making sure that we vote against unnecessary spending, and that is what I will continue to do if I serve on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bartan.
Thank you. The question is, will you seek to shrink, grow, or hold steady the size of Summit's municipal government? Yes. I know that wasn't a yes or no question. What I mean is that there are some ways in which I believe the government should shrink, stay the same, and some in which it should grow. I'll break down what I mean. There are going to be times when people move on from Summit or retire when it's absolutely necessary that we fill their position. I believe this is especially true when it comes to first responders. At the same time, if it's possible to lower the number of people working through attrition, then in some cases I believe that would be a good thing, especially when we're incorporating new technology. We should seek to maintain the level of service while trying to save money whenever possible. And finally, we are lucky to have an extremely talented pool of volunteers in Summit. I believe generally that the more people involved in the process of government, the stronger that government is. I have served on several of these volunteer boards over the years, and it has been my experience that the dedicated volunteers along whom I serve provide the city with invaluable expertise at no cost to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Bartan, you get to answer this first, and the question asks, how do you plan to represent all of Summit as the city's demographics change?
I have knocked on more than 3,000 doors, and by election day, actually by probably tomorrow, I will have knocked on every single door in Ward 2, at least once. I make sure everyone with whom I speak knows how to get in touch with me, and if there's anything they believe I should be focusing on, I let them know. Also, after every council meeting, I've posted a blog and a short video called Bartan's Views with my 3 thoughts. I've pledged to continue to do that through the entirety of my term as councilman. I will continue to knock on doors and find out what is important to people. And whether I'm walking down Springfield Avenue, buying a cup of coffee, or out with friends, I'm always willing to chat about our wonderful city and the way it should work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Naidu.
Thank you. I intend to represent all the residents by communicating with as many people as possible. I have gone door to door to thousands of homes. I have talked to residents at the platform, at the train platform, at the park, at the supermarket, and at the gym. I have started Council on the Road. We had listening sessions at Wallace Chapel, the First Aid Squad, and at the high school. We picked Wallace Chapel as the first stop to show that folks in the eastern part of Summit that we cared and we were listening to their concerns. These listening sessions were basically questions and answers. We took as many questions as there were people to ask them, and then we tried to get answers from them either while we were there or we followed up with people. I started putting council's agenda in plain English before every single council meeting so that residents would know what their city was doing before it happened. That was put on the city's website and shared on my Facebook page as well as with other council members. And then finally, I have written summaries every half year to tell people what I have been doing and what we are going to be doing. It is by reaching out to people only that you can actually represent them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeSocio.
Thank you. I will seek to obtain government to make it more effective. I will hold steady in the reduction to bring technology to bear, and through attrition to shrink government. I also believe that these tax dollars are not the cities, they're ours, and we should guard them as such. Thank you.
Mr. Doherty.
Thank you. The residents of Summit have already had an opportunity to see how I will represent them as an elected member of Summit Common Council. As I said previously, I have served as a police officer in this town for 28 years. I'm proud to say I've always treated everyone with respect. I enforced the laws with fairness and consistency. I took the time to listen to each side. I responded to I reported the facts accurately and took appropriate actions. Over the years, Summit's population has changed, and it will continue to do so in the future. I'm proud of the record and reputation of the Summit Police Department, but I am even more proud to have been equally a part of it. One of my responsibilities as the captain of the police department was to oversee the community policing unit. The unit would meet regularly with different groups of the town and were having difficulties. We would do all that we could to help these people in need, resolve conflicts, provide the assurance that they will be safe and secure in their homes. If elected to council, I will tend to my duties in representing everyone the same in the community as a community policing approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, last prepared question, and Mr. DeSocio, you go first, and the question asks, should Common Council designate Summit a sanctuary city?
Thank you. This is an easy question, very easy. There is no effect of the rule of law. The rule of law comes first. All public officials take an oath to obey the rule that's set aside when they take their oath. Forming a sanctuary city in Summit would be breaking that oath. So I don't believe that should be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Martan.
No, I don't believe Summit Council should designate Summit a sanctuary city. In speaking with the leadership of the police department and with people around town, it is not the general consensus that that would be what's best for us. Additionally, I believe that when the government takes action, there should be a clear and measurable way to see the impact. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to lay out my thoughts on leadership for a second. I believe at the end of the day, regardless of your background, ideology, or political party affiliation, there's really only two types of leaders. There are leaders who seek to bring people together, and there are leaders who seek to divide. This question was asked to try and divide the people of Summit, and I believe we can and we should do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Doherty.
I believe Summit Common Council should not designate Summit as a sanctuary city. What problem would this be solving? The Summit Police Department has always had a good reputation with all the segments of the community. What positive actions would this accomplish? As a former police officer, you take an oath to uphold the laws and defend the Constitution of the state of New Jersey and the U.S. Constitution. You do not get to pick and choose which laws you want to follow or defend. So ask yourself, what negative action would take place if someone was listed as a sanctuary city? Someone could become a beacon to attract dangerous, undocumented, illegal aliens that could do harm to our residents, simply because they know that the law enforcement's hands are tied in some way. We could risk losing federal funding, and I doubt our state government would offer to make up the difference of that loss. Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to the third.
It's okay, it's okay.
I apologize. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. The short answer is no. The longer answer is, in the 3 years that I have been on council, not once do I recall any single resident, including the folks that are sitting here right now, ask about sanctuary cities. The only other time that I've heard this issue come up was actually in last year's candidate forum. One of my biggest concerns is that the national politics of division has started infecting our relatively small community and local politics. We have heard about it today. Those who were involved in it have shown a severe lack of judgment. Nobody here is more than 1 or 2 degrees of separation from anyone else in this community. We need to speak out together against intolerance and division. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Please hold your applause. Now we're moving on to the third portion of today's program, which are questions from you, the audience. If you have any questions on cards, if you can raise up the cards, they will be collected. In the back, we have 3 screeners. We have a member of the Republican Party, a member of the Democratic Party, and our League of Women Voters president. What they are doing is they are looking at the questions so that duplication is avoided, as well as making sure that the questions are in the form of a question, that they deal with issues that are brought up to the Common Council, and they do not include any personal or abusive attacks. Okay, so everybody has, the candidates have 1 minute in which to respond. At the end of 30 seconds, you'll see the yellow card. At the end of a minute, you will see the red card. Again, please leave your thought. Audience question number 1 goes to Mr. Naidu, and the question asks, what can council do to address Union County tax burden on Summit? How can Summit work more effectively with Union County government?
Thank you very much. This is a question that comes up always, of course, because Union County taxes comprise about 30% of our total tax burden. This year, actually, we saw, because Union County came under 2%, because the schools were under control, and because we were so successful on council together in reducing and controlling taxes, that residents saw actually for the first time a decrease in their taxes. But of course, that's not sufficient, and we know that. We have been working with Union County to increase the amount of money that comes back to Summit, including getting about more than $500,000 for Glenside Field. We got money for the Tatlock tennis courts. So it's a 2-pronged thing, making sure that they control their tax rates, and secondly, getting as much money back for Summit as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeSocio.
Thank you. There is a lot of overlay of government between the city of Summit and Union County. We should be able to join services on that and eliminate that. Hopefully, if we do that, maybe we could get some of that tax money back. Just an idea. Union County does a lot of great things. They have some things they do very well, some things they don't do so well. Many years back, they went to China on a junket. What are we doing in China? I didn't understand that, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Doherty.
Okay, I don't think anyone's going to argue with the fact that Union County is the biggest threat to our taxes here locally. We've sent over $40 million down to the county last year, and we only receive about 11 cents back on the dollar. Over the last 8 years, taxes in the county have risen 46%, and the city operating budget has only risen 6% in the same period. This trend will continue if we don't do something about it. I suggest that we continue to attend the freeholder meetings question their budget, ask them things like, why do we need a public golf course in Scotch Plains and we already have one in Kenilworth? We need to force the county to do a forensic audit of their budget by an outside agency that has no ties to the county, form a coalition of elected officials from the western municipalities in our county to lobby for change and transparency. And lastly, the western municipalities lack representation of freeholder vote. We have to set up something where we elect freeholders as an at-large, so we have representatives from our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bartan?
Nobody's going to argue that all that money paid to Union County is a lot. Some of the freeholders are elected at large, so that's important to note. Another thing is that I think we should try to be specific about when we're talking about shared services, the way that we can go about doing that. Just the idea of it, of course, is great, but I think we should try to be a little bit more specific with our answers. And we could bang the table, we could force an audit, we could say everything you're doing is wrong and terrible. But I don't think that's a great way to start a working relationship. So I think we should identify the projects in Summit where we can get more money back, and we should bring them to the county in a collaborative sort of way. The way that we have in getting more than $600,000 in grants back, more than $500,000 for the Glenside Avenue field, and the traffic flow work that they've been helping us out with as well. So that's it.
Rebuttal?
Thank you. 30 seconds, and all you're going to see is the red card for the end of 30 seconds.
I question Mr. Bartan's statement that the freeholders are elected at large. They are elected by, and they mostly come from the political power sources in the urban communities like Elizabeth, Hillside, and Plainfield. So I think that's incorrect, and I just want to put that on the record.
But everyone in Union County votes for the same freeholders.
Yes.
That's the definition of it.
There's no talking from the audience. Okay.
Can I just?
Okay, Mr. Knight. 30
Thank you.
seconds.
I think, you know, one of the things is it's very easy to keep on saying, Union County bad, Union County bad. When you actually have to govern, it's much harder to have a relationship with people that you yell and scream at. I think what we have seen, especially under Mayor Radis in the last 3 years that she's been able to accomplish, which is a good working relationship. We had the folks at the Union County Freeholders the other night. Unfortunately, I don't think either of the two opponents for Red and myself made it.
Thank you. 30
But
seconds are up.
thank you.
Mr. DeSocio, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I've been to the Freeholders Board meetings many times. Many years ago, they signed an agreement with M&E Railroad to bring freight trains through Summit. They were charging 19 cents a month. I got up in front of the board, I offered them 25. Thank you for your comments. Have a seat.
Thank you. Next question, and Mr. Dougherty, you get to answer this one first. Would you vote to approve the $1.5 million increase in the school budget to eliminate half-day kindergarten and adopt universal full-day kindergarten? Would you vote to increase taxes to fund this or ask the Board of Education to fund from within the budget?
I'm all about the schools because the schools are one of our biggest assets. I know, having been as an employee of the city of Summit, if I want to buy something that costs $1.5 million, I went before council, I'd have to show facts and figures why it was important. The fire department has to do the same thing. They want to buy a new fire truck, you know, $250,000, $300,000. They have to show why the old one doesn't work. As I understand it, full-day kindergarten started 5 or 6 years ago as a pilot program, meaning that it was a test. And I was under the understanding that that test would, there'd be some parameters of testing it, either the park testing. I understand the first year you couldn't say much because there's only 1 year of results, but now we've had a couple of years. Why aren't we just seeing if this is right for Summit? I'm not saying it's right for everywhere, but I'm saying our concern should be Summit. We should be testing to see if full-day kindergarten is making a difference for the students in Summit. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bartan.
I am fully supportive of full-day kindergarten. It is a moral and economic imperative for our community. Morally, we don't want some first graders in Summit having an advantage over other first graders in Summit simply because of their parents' ability to pay an additional $5,000 in taxes on top of their tax bill. The second part is that it's an economic imperative because Summit has always been competitive because of its schools, its proximity to New York City, and everything else that we've been talking about today. If we continue to fall behind the more than 90% of other towns in New Jersey that do have full-day kindergarten, we will not be competitive anymore. Madison just got full-day kindergarten, and that's on the train line, so we should be very concerned about that. And we should ask the Board of Education to find the way to fund this program and make it happen.
Thank you. Mr. Naidu.
Thank you very much. Greg covered many of the things that I would say, so I don't want to repeat it. I also am fully in support of full-day kindergarten. I believe it's a middle-class tax because it's unfair. Luckily, this year we had a reduction. It used to be about $7,500 per child that you would have to pay. Now it's down to somewhere around $5,500. It's still a lot of money. And I've talked to many residents, especially young couples who have young kids who move into this town and find out that they have this additional tax burden. I don't think that's fair to them. And in fact, it impacts our property values by having that. Secondly, I think with regard to funding it, this is something that the school board will be looking at in January, and I hope that they can find within the current framework of our expenses to cover it. We have a $63 million school budget. I hope they can find the money for the full-day kindergarten within that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeSocio.
I think this is a great idea. Reasons why. I think it will give the kids a head start. My concerns on this issue is, right now it's a $1.5 million budget for a little over 300 children. I haven't seen any figures or any facts on what happens when it goes to 400 or 500. How do we address it then? There has to be something in the future to plan on this when it grows. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. And Mr. DeSocio, you'll answer first, and the question asks, what do you propose to make Summit more affordable for its residents? Please address specifically how to keep seniors in Summit.
Thank you. A fair share of tax should be considered. Seniors have a major problem. Many years ago, I was involved in the East Summit Association. We walked throughout the town. East Summit is not a very wealthy part of town. It's a middle-class part of town. Many times people came to the door, and the first thing they asked, what could you do on taxes? Taxes are basically driving our seniors out of town. A lot of them had their widowers on a pension. So basically, we're chasing these seniors out of town after they did so much for us. I don't think that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Naidu.
Yes, thank you. This is actually, John had referred to it in one of his statements about affordability, and I agree with him. This is a big issue to address affordability. You're absolutely right, John. Except for I think with regard to resolving it, you referred to things dealing with Trenton and Union, but I want to talk about things we can do here in Summit instead, because that's what actually City Council can do. Two things. One is the taxes. We are trying to control the taxes, but taxes alone are not enough. We have to grow the economic pie. It is only by increasing the our total ratables can we hope to reduce each person's economic tax burden. That brings us to Broad Street redevelopment, something I hope we will talk about a little bit more in detail. But Broad Street redevelopment would help seniors because we're envisioning having 1 to 2 bedroom apartments or condos being placed on Broad Street, which will allow people to be able to retire in this community. We should recognize that 81% of the taxes in this town are paid by residents, 19% paid by commercial entities, and so we have to address that. Thank you.
Very much. Okay, Mr. Doherty.
Okay, I don't think anyone's going to argue with the fact we have to get up control of our taxes to make this place more affordable, especially for our seniors and retirees. I would continue to find more opportunities to share services like we have with our court and our confined dispatch, like we've recently done in the last couple of years with our neighboring communities. There's savings and opportunities there. I also would like to point out that we need to settle litigations, much like a couple of years ago, the council settled a long, drawn-out litigation with Overlook Atlantic Health to settle the tax issue with Overlook Hospital. This settlement saved the city, saved a ton of litigation fees, but it also received $750,000 a year over the next 7 years in compensation. were it not for this agreement, the current common council could not boast of a 0% increase. They'd probably have closer to a 2%. I would also encourage to cut back on any unnecessary employees in City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Partain.
Thank you. I know I've said it a couple times, but I think it's important. I've knocked on 3,000 doors, and almost every single person that I talk to talks to me first about affordability in Summit. So 2 ways I think that we approach this. Protect our property values. That comes from the things like promoting traffic safety, promoting vibrancy downtown. We should consider the budgetary impact of senior property tax relief, and we should also continue our transparent and open budgeting process that has resulted in a very responsible budget this year. The second part is that I'm very excited that we could grow the tax base by redeveloping on Broad Street. This is a fantastic opportunity for our city to actually grow ratables and take some pressure off the residential side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a rebuttal, please?
Yes, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I just want to again correct John's record. Just so it's clear, John, you may not be aware, but I was on council and voted for and was involved in the Overlook settlement, the Celgene settlement, as well as moving the courthouse. So just to make sure that you're not missing that point. Thanks.
Okay. Next question deals with developing Broad Street corridor. Okay, and Mr. Partain, you get to go first. And the question asks, what are your specific goals for developing the Broad Street corridor? Please describe how you propose to address the potential for greater housing density.
Okay, so I've been a member of the planning board for the last 2 years. Broad Street redevelopment seems to be one of the most exciting things that we're working on. So there are a lot of moving pieces. Of the 10 acres, 6 of those acres are owned by the city. Some are owned by private entities, and the fire department is going to need to move as part of the process. So we need to be making sure that we're approaching this in a comprehensive way. What I can see as a vision for Broad Street redevelopment is parking maintained, commercial space added to add ratables, and residential space that's only 1 or 2 bedroom apartments so that we're not adding children. What we can focus on is environmental sustainability in this project, and also making sure that we're addressing the needs of seniors and young people who also could potentially be moving in to that sort of an area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeSocio.
I think the Broad Street development is a great idea. The Summit being a sanctuary city, we have an opportunity to have 1 bedroom or small apartments where people can walk to the train. And that would be very beneficial for our tax base. There'd be less cars in town, less traffic, better safety. This is one of the things I thought that was a great idea. The only thing I'm concerned about, the City of Summit doesn't own all that property. We have to negotiate with the other landlords that own pieces of property to get this thing passed. That's going to take time and a lot of effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Doherty.
As my running mate here has pointed out, that the city only owes 60% of the property that's in this area we're talking about. Before any discussion of redevelopment of this area has to take place, there's 2 things that have to be solved first. We have to solve the parking issue, and we have to figure out where to put the firehouse. I recently spoke with Chief Evers at the fire department, and he told me that the firehouse has to be relocated somewhere within a half-mile where it is right now because of the 8-minute time constraint to be able to respond to any fire in town. Right now, from what I could see and what I've seen in discussions when I was on the planning board, is that the firehouse most likely has to go on the east summit of the Broad Street east lot, the one that's not covered by a garage. There's plenty of room to put it there. It's on the main track. There isn't also an opportunity to build or extend the garage there. So we could solve 2 problems with once. We could pay for it by swapping out the land with the developer who would do it for the old firehouse, and we could put in more parking and a firehouse there. I also agree the whole project, we have to allow for more mixed use. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take a quick rebuttal.
No,
Oh,
sorry, it's Mr. Naidu's turn. I'm not missing
All
him
right.
again.
That's all right. Okay. Should I
You
go?
get me next time.
Yeah, that's fine. Should I go now? now?
No, Mr. Naidu, yes.
Okay, thank you.
1 minute.
Absolutely, thank you. So Broad Street redevelopment, this has been something that's been discussed in the community for a little while now. I've been involved in this process intimately for the last 2 years. It's a complicated process. There are sequences that we need to figure out with respect to the parking and the fire station. We've been working on that already. There are 7 developers who have given conceptual plans to the city in the middle of October. These conceptual plans lay out what they view as what they would like to see in that area. We hope to go out to the public in the early part of 2019 with an entire city conceptual plan that we will then get public comments from. This has been kind of an open, transparent process where we've always asked for people's comments. And after that, we will need to end up negotiating with developers as to what is possible. It's 10 acres of property, 60% of it is public. The 40% that is not public, the developers themselves will have to negotiate with the property owners because it's a non-condemnation policy. But you have to recognize that about only that 40% pays $200,000 in property taxes in total. So if you
Thank
can
you.
imagine 4 acres paying that little.
Thank you. Okay.
Very quick rebuttal. I think it was probably just that he misspoke, but Summit is not a sanctuary city.
I did
My
misspoke.
opponent did mention that. The only 2 other things I'll mention is that the 2 things we have to do is maintain the character of Summit. I don't think anybody had mentioned that, and keep the public involved in the process beforehand. Thank you.
Okay. Next question, Mr. Naidu, you go first, and the question asks, if you could choose a citywide environmental initiative, what would you like to see in Summit, and what would you pick?
Thank you very much. For those who don't know, I served on the Environmental Commission for a number of years before going onto the Planning Board and then subsequently onto Council. So and I am by profession an environmental and land use lawyer. And so environmental issues are near and dear to my heart. It would be very, very difficult for me to pick one initiative, but one thing that I would like us to finish, and something that I have intimately been involved in through my work in a nonprofit called the Summit Conservancy, is the construction of a free market building at the transfer station. The free market allows people, all of us, to share together what we have. It reduces the waste stream, it helps the lives of other residents in Summit, and it helps to reduce our tax burden because we pay less in tipping fees. It is a win-win-win for the city. And so that is the one project that I would like to see completed first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty.
Okay, my background is not environment, but I just go with what I know. Right now, my family and I, we recycle, and I think that's an initiative that everyone should take seriously. Summit residents currently enjoy the ability to recycle plastics, numbered 1 through 7. Recycling is a meaningful and responsible way to make a difference for the environment. My family and I have taken this seriously, and we can all do so. We've seen stories in the news about how market forces are reducing the number of plastics so that it may be recyclable. I strongly support efforts to renegotiate Summit's recycling contract when it expires next year, and to include as many plastics as possible so that each Summit resident can continue to positively affect the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you. I've served on the Recycling Advisory Committee, and I'm the Planning Board liaison to the Environmental Commission now. So it's extremely exciting to talk about this question because we can focus on a number of things: solar power, reducing the use of one-time use plastics. We can strengthen the tree ordinance. But I think one thing that is really near and dear to the people of Summit, especially my fiance's heart, is getting food composting somehow incorporated into the things that we already recycle. This would be a great way to get started, and if we're reducing the number of the amount of waste we send out of Summit, we actually save tax dollars as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeSocio.
Thank you. One of the issues, like I said, being on the Transportation Advisory Board, is the park line. This is a plus for the city of Summit. It takes a blight and turns it into something that's beautiful. It will be something that all residents can enjoy. And the best thing about it, there'll be no tax dollars used for this. How could we not go along with this? Taking something that's really, that looks horrendous and turning into something beauty. And also being very useful for walkers and joggers. Thank you.
Oh, quick rebuttal.
Quick rebuttal, 30 seconds.
I'll just note that the park line is a project, it's not a policy, and the question was more related to what the city could be doing to increase our environmental sustainability. Thank you.
Can I get
30 seconds.
30 seconds? First of all, I'd like to just commend all of the people here for really, I agree with them in most part about the different types of issues. They're all great issues to be working on and thinking about. So I think it is great that we come together on this issue and try to move forward. With regard to the park line, just so everyone's clear, there is a memorandum of understanding. It gives certain responsibilities to the city, and there's certain responsibilities to the Parkline Foundation. So I think we should all be very clear that it is not a 0% city responsibility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next question, Mr. Vartan, you get to go first. And it states, what can Summit do to address the challenges facing New Jersey transit commuters?
Sure. You know, that's a good one. When you hear the audience react at a debate. So as a general campaign rule, I've tried not to talk about things that are not directly under the control of the council, but clearly I understand the frustration that has been caused to the huge amount of our population that takes NJ Transit, uses NJ Transit every single day. So what our responsibility as a city government would be is to work with our neighbors and Union County, the state government, and the federal government to make sure that they are advocating for our needs in a way that is effective. While the city has no direct control over it, that does seem like something we should be working on. Thank you.
Mr. Doherty.
Well, I can't argue with any of that there, Greg, but I'll tell you, we have to continue to engage our elected officials at the county and state level. I know Nancy Munoz, our assemblywoman, has been riding the rails and she's speaking to commuters and trying to find out what's wrong and what could be fixed. I know Governor Murphy has also promised to put his audit of the system in his first 100 days. I understand it recently just came out, but what's missing from it is a timeline for the changes he plans on making. I know we're under a federal mandate for the auto braking feature to be installed on all trains. I'm not sure if we're going to make that by December 31st of this year. I hope we do. It's an important safety feature. But most importantly, we got to find a dependability, consistent trains running. And I understand the biggest problem that's come out is because we don't have enough conductors. Conductors call out sick, they don't show up for work, and they have to cancel the train. That's one thing that can be done right away. Hire more conductors so at least we can keep the schedule going the way it should be. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Naidu.
Thank you very much. As a person who takes the train virtually every day, weekday, going to work and back, I completely understand the horrors that is New Jersey Transit, right? Because I can never depend that I actually get to work on time, and I can never depend that I can actually get home on time. And I've missed so many things because of it, it's ridiculous. So nobody should tell me about how terrible New Jersey Transit is. I live it, so I understand it. I agree with what Greg said. I think there's only so many things that we as council can do and the mayor can do. And those things have actually been started being done. So we've created relationships with our neighboring towns. We've reached out to our state officials. We've reached out to our federal officials. We have to get the Gateway Tunnel done. This is a huge issue for the residents of Summit because what we're experiencing now is nothing if one of those tunnels shut down. And our property values will completely plummet once that happens. And so therefore we need to move our elected officials, especially the federal level, to get things done on the Gateway Tunnel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. DeSocio.
Thank you. I remember when I came to Summit about 37 years ago. You could almost set your watch to the time the train pulled in. Where has it gone wrong? How have we gone so far so quick? The train system is the lifeblood of this community and a lot of other communities. I agree with everybody who says we have to reach out to our local leaders in the state and in the federal level. This has to be fixed. This could bring property value down. I do agree with that. The conductors, from what I understand, most conductors in other areas of trains takes 3 months to train and they're on the job. New Jersey Transit takes 6 to 9 months. So there's more bureaucracy there. So if they streamline that, maybe we can get more help. Thank you.
Next question, Mr. DeSocio, you get to answer it first. What suggestions do you have for the following? Addressing the issue of drug addiction, prevention of suicide, and increasing safety of pedestrians using crosswalks. I think an executive decision. Instead of 1 minute, we're going to do a minute and a half on this question. So everybody will have a minute and a half.
Thank you. This is something I'm really engaged in. I happen to be the Region 2 Drug Awareness Chairman for the State of New Jersey Elks Association. In 1988, the Elks took on this project. Summit has a major problem. We tried to get into the school systems. We tried to engage them. It's very difficult. They really don't want to hear about it. Summit doesn't want to know that they have a drug problem. Every May, I have a walkout on drugs. I have to go down to Union County, Echo Lake Park to have it. I bring in 6, 7 speakers. 2, 3 years ago, I had Chris Perino. I had Nancy Munoz. I had the prosecutor from Union County. I had a bunch of people. 20 people showed up. They didn't want to know about it. This is a problem. Our children are our most valuable asset. And as far as suicide, every February we have a seminar down in Long Branch. And we have motivational speakers, and they talk about bullying and self-worth. They bring these kids in, trying to filter it back down. They even bring some of the guidance counselors in, so they can be aware of seeing what's going on. What child feels they're not worth anything and they want to commit suicide. Again, children are our most valuable asset.
Thank you, Mr. Naidu.
Thank you very much. So there's 2 parts to this question. I'll try to address both of them, the drug addiction and the traffic one. First of all, with regard to drug addiction, obviously that is a very serious problem, and we need to take it very seriously. 2 things that I want to mention. One of those things that we did in council this year, we had different committees and boards come to council meetings and express what their concerns were, what their issues were, and what they were doing to address it, and what help they needed from council. One of the groups that came to us was Shaping Summit Together. It is an organization that is run by volunteers, that has a council member representative to it. Their presentation was completely on alcohol and drug awareness and what they were doing to address that. So it is certainly not the case that we do not want to hear or know about drug issues in Summit City Council. Secondly, as most of you know, and as my older son has gone through, there's the DARE program that exists. And it is one of those programs that helps to teach young folks about the problems of addiction and how to avoid being hooked onto drugs. So those are 2 examples of things that Summit is already doing to address it. Secondly, with regard to the traffic, which is a huge issue, a couple of things I have to mention, and I'll do it quickly because I have very little time. Speed humps that we put on Ashland and Woodland have made a huge impact to people's lives there. 4-way stop signs, and we're working on a sidewalk master plan and a bike master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty.
Okay, as I said before, having been a police officer, I've seen what drugs can do to not only a child, but the family as a whole. And now in my role as the Director of Security at Trinitas Hospital Elizabeth, I'm also seeing how the lack of ability to treat people, because there is not enough rooms to go around to treat. I think we have to lobby our legislators, put more money into behavioral health programs, to allow for more hospitalization rooms to treat people. You know, the easiest answer was people get locked up for drugs, you just put them in jail. That's not the answer. I've seen both sides of the equation. I think we have to address the fact that we don't have enough behavioral health options to treat people, and that treatment is the answer. Getting to the second part of this question about traffic safety, I used to be the traffic bureau commander. I'm well aware of the problem areas, and I think the town is going in the right direction right now. They are installing the proper traffic control devices speed humps, not bumps, speed humps, there's a difference.
That's what I said.
I think we, I think we should also be putting in the lit crosswalks in some areas. I've seen them in other parts of the state. They're very effective to draw the attention of the drivers to the fact that a pedestrian has stepped into a crosswalk and you have to stop. So I support everything that's being done by the town right now as far as what the initiatives for traffic and pedestrian safety, and I will continue to do so if elected.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
they have to
Martin.
work.
Okay, so first, Summit absolutely knows we have a drug problem, I assure you. The use of opioids, other drugs, and the growing suicide rates are becoming an epidemic. I have seen this firsthand through my role on the First Aid Squad. I've seen the effects of drugs on the body, the effects of drugs on the family, and the larger effect of drugs on a community. I've seen it here in Summit, and I saw it when I was away at school in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, when I was part of meetings of the city's heroin task force. I don't think anyone has the answer, but just as the problem doesn't only affect one person or a family, it affects a community, which is why I would introduce a proposal to create a community board dedicated to speaking about drug issues and recommending policy initiatives if necessary. Such a board would have to include the police, leaders in healthcare, clergy, schools, and nonprofits, and together we could address this issue as a community that cares so deeply about this issue because it affects everyone. On the traffic side of things, it's clear that the police department is focused on keeping our pedestrians safe. I support the traffic calming measures taken in town, and I think they should be expanded to other parts of town where it's necessary. I also support the bike master plan and the sidewalk master plan. Thank you.
Those try.
Thank you. Excuse me,
Crossing
audience,
streets don't work.
audience member, excuse me. There's no talking back and forth to the candidates. Mr. DeSocio,
Do I have a
30 seconds.
for a debate? Being a member of the Drug Awareness Committee on a state level, I was not invited to anything that the city has done. I would wish that the city would invite me. We have literature, we have coloring books, we have ways of reaching the young children and then putting in the hands of the adults, the parents, showing them the telltale signs of drugs. I wish the city would have reached out to me. This is available.
Thank you, Mr. Mayhew. I do.
Thank you very much.
30 seconds.
First, there's a public comment period that is open to anybody in the public to come forward and speak whatever issue that they want. It doesn't matter what the issue, you can always come in and speak. Second, you can always reach out to me, the mayor, any member of council, and say, I would like to come in and speak about it. Third, Lou, you're invited. Come and show up between now and December. Come and speak about it.
Not a problem.
Okay. Next question, Mr. Dougherty, you go first, and the question asks, how can we improve Bryant Park for the benefit of all residents?
Well, I live in that neighborhood, and I do frequently, I wish I could say I do it more often, walk around that 1.1 mile track, but I try. The one thing I think that we should be pushing our Union County government is to finally dredge that lake. It's at the point right now where I don't know if you can even call it a lake. It's more of a swamp because you can't even see the pond in some sections because the growth that's gone around it. So I think, you know, the county has put some money into the place. They have improved the trails and blacktopped them. They put the pavilion in, which is very nice, although I see it's really not used that often, but it is nice either way. But I think the major thing we have to do with the Bryant Park is to get the county to finally make good on their promise, do their environmental impact study, to get approval from the state, and dredge that pond and make it more viable.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you. So this, we were chatting before about how we can get more back from Union County. This is a perfect example because if we're yelling and screaming at Union County and then we say, oh yeah, we want some more money for Bryant Park too, I don't think that's a good way to go about doing that. So I agree. I think, you know, the lake probably needs to be dredged there, and there's just a number of other improvements that could be done. I think there should be chairs underneath the underneath that thing there. What is that called? The pavilion. There should be chairs underneath the pavilion. Thank you.
Mr. DeSocio.
Bryant Park is another issue that I took on. As a member of the East Summit Association, we formed a unity with Union County we brought them in. Bryant Park is a homestead park. These are the two gentlemen that just did Central Park. Most people aren't aware, many years ago in the 1800s and early 1900s, parks were locked up, and only men of property had keys to get into it. The Olmsted boys, when they did Central Park, they wanted to make it more affordable, more accessible for the average person, where they could go and enjoy with their family, sit and have lunch. Bryant Park is one of those Olmsted parks. We formed another conservative, which was an offspring of the East Summit Association, that took over that park. I was one of the instrumental in getting that gazebo built. I went down to Trenton. I had to sit in front of 3 boards and explain to them why that was necessary. They wanted to choose the color of the roof, and we finally got it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Naidu.
Thank you very much. I agree with everything that's been previously said by everyone. I agree with John as far as the dredging of the lake. You could probably walk pretty close to walking on water there.
Walk across it.
Exactly. But I think just to broaden a little bit of the discussion for Bryant Park, obviously there's other parks and recreational areas in our town. We've seen some improvements in some of those that the city can make directly, because Bryant Park obviously is Union County. We've done improvements to Tatlock as far as on the bleachers, on the sound system, on the press box. We're both turfing the lower Tatlock, upper Tatlock. We made improvements to the Cornell Fieldhouse. It is because of our parks and because of these green spaces that we have the type of community that we do. And we need to make sure that we make the proper investments in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The last question before we go to closing remarks. Mr. Naidu, you get to answer this first, and the question asks, what is one attribute you admire in your opponent?
That's very easy, actually. John and I served together on the planning board, and I certainly respect and admire his service and dedication to this community. He knows that. I have no doubt he knows that I feel that way about it. He served admirably as a police officer, and he served admirably on the planning board. On a personal note, I lost my mother earlier this year, and I will tell you, John came to my house, and he said, we lit a memorial candle for a year for my mother at the convent here in town. My mother taught with nuns in Calcutta, where she taught for many, many years. And it moved me greatly that John had done that. So it's easy for me to be admirable of John Dougherty.
Mr. DeSocio.
Thank you. I commend Greg for being on the first aid squad. I just hope I can send less people with drug addictions. This is a very important. Our first aid squad is a volunteer, so I really do commend him for that. I commend him for his energy, his activity, being on the planning board. I commend him in coming to this meeting, sitting in front of all you nice folks, and answering all these questions. This is what government's about. As far as going down to Union County, when we did the park, I have been in front of Union County and made alliances with Union County. So if I'm elected, I could do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vartan.
As I have stated before, volunteer service is key to our community. I think our culture of volunteerism is what makes such great people and such a wonderful town. Lou's volunteered in city boards and commissions for longer than I've been alive. Whenever there's a hot dog being made on Memorial Field, that's where you'll find him. And I think through the Elks, he's done a lot to raise awareness of the issues. So I think that's a good thing.
Mr. Doherty.
I'm going to say this about my opponent, David Naidu. David Naidu is a gentleman. He's always treated me nice, fair, and professionally. Last year, when he got elected to be the council president, he could have taken over the council committee assignments. He did not. He may have thought about it, but he did not. He instead incorporated bipartisanly, putting Republican council persons in committees and in chair positions as that. So in that bipartisan, I give him that credit, and he's a good friend.
Thank you, John, very much.
Thank you. And now we move to the final portion, yes. We now move to the final portion of the program this morning, and that is closing statements. The closing statements will be in the reverse order of the opening statements. Each candidate gets 2 minutes in which to make a closing statement. And Mr. Vartan, you get to go first.
Okay, so thank you again to the League and all of you for being here and for participating in our democracy. Like I've said, I think almost 3,000 times in this debate, I've knocked on more than 3,000 doors. And I have discovered what I believe the people of Summit are looking for in a representative. The ability to do the following 3 things are key. 1, understand the facts related to the challenges and opportunities. 2, speak with the relevant stakeholders. And 3, take a reasonable, informed stance on those issues. What you've seen over the last 90 minutes today is the promise by my opponents that they will do those things, and some interesting history lessons. What you've seen from David and I is that we offer actual solutions and ideas. When there are solutions offered, I offer actual responses to that. And finally, even if we disagree ideologically, I believe many in Summit will agree that having a position based on those things, as mentioned, is better than not. If you count yourself among those people, I ask you to join with the many people of varied backgrounds who have already pledged their support, and please vote for me November 6th. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mr. Naidu.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening. As I said before, it's a great honor and privilege of mine to serve as your representative on council and to serve this year as council president. Andrea and I celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary last week. No, it does not feel like a year.
So well.
I was doing so well. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble as usual.
I call the sanctuary city.
Yeah, that's true. Last week, and both of us said to each other that we could never have imagined that this would be part of our lives. I've had the opportunity to meet so many people who I would have never met otherwise. And in these interactions, you have inspired me, you have encouraged me to continue on this journey. I will tell you one such incident. It was a hot summer day. Andrea and I were walking on a street in the eastern part of Summit. We were going door to door meeting residents. At a house, we met an older woman with a cane. When she opened the door, the first thing she said to me is, "I know you, I watch you on television." And without saying a word, she said, "I love what you do." I will tell you, her words lifted me up that day. And frankly, I don't know what I've done to deserve such affection. But if it is anything, it is this that I promise you. It is that I will continue to speak up and fight for the ideas that I believe in. I will speak up and fight for the people who think that they have no voice in decision making. I will speak up and fight for civility, respect, and treatment of all peoples equally. I will speak up and fight for a transparent government, and I will speak up and fight for the idea that working together, we can accomplish things that will make this community better for generations to come. I am David Naidu. I hope you will vote for me.
Thank you. With that, call for applause. We still have 2 more speakers. Mr. DeSocio.
Thank you. For 37 years I've lived in this town. I love this town. I'll give it everything I got. I have been down to the Freeholders Board. I've sat and listened to them. I know what they do. I've been in front of them. I spoke to the Parks Department when we were trying to do Bryant Park. I built up relationships. I have a way of building bridges, even with people on the other side. This is something I am very good at. Being a salesman is part of that job. You have to sell yourself to your opponent and let them know that you're there and they're there to help you and you're there to help them. This is something I do. I wish the city of Summit would give me a shot. I'd like to do this. I could go down to Trenton. I can go down to Elizabeth. I've been down there many a times. I know the people down there, the court reporters. I know the people that sit in the audience,
They've been still there for like 30 some odd years. Same people. They go every time. These are people that are engaged, like you are. My dream is to bring Summit into the 21st century. We have technology. They upgraded the building department. Where I work, there are contractors that come in and tell me they will not work in Summit because of our building department. It takes too long to get anything done. They say, you go get the building permits, call me when you got them. This is not the way Summit should be. Somebody wants to expand and make their house nicer and better, the city should be aligned with them, not a hindrance. Now, with the new online planning, where they can file their permits, it's moving smoother. It's about time. I just hope we can relate this to the contractors and get more contractors back into Summit that don't want to come here. My name is Lou DeSocio. I'm running for council in Ward 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dougherty.
People who run for office in this town have the best of intentions, serve, represent, and make good things happen. My opponent and I both share these intentions. We both bring different skill sets to the table. David's an attorney with environmental practice. I was a police officer for 28 years. As a city employee, it allowed me to bring a deeper knowledge from the ground up on city issues and concerns. My many years of experience in relation building has been an important resource to bring groups together and solve problems. I'm a go-to guy who listens and will quickly respond to residents and business concerns. I bring a different perspective and a unique work experience that will allow me to serve the people. If elected to council, I would be able to hit the ground running, someone who knows and has worked with people here from all walks of life, someone who has shown a willingness to get involved and volunteer their time. I'm asking for your vote on November 6th. As a former police officer, you entrusted me with the safety and security of your family and property. I'm now asking again for that same solemn trust to represent your interests on council. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I think we should